You're good to go.
All right. And hi, I'm Danielle Wicks, and I'm here on behalf of John Bead and Michaels. And tonight we're going to learn about flat chenille stitch, which is a really pretty lattice looking stitch. To me, it kind of looks like almost like a netted stitch, but the way it is constructed is a lot more like peyote. And so my goal for this class is to go through each of the steps. I'm going to go through each step really slowly. We'll build the first rows. We'll do that twice. And then I'll show how to add thread and how to finish a 4 and a 5 column design. I have 2 samples here that are ready to go for clasping that I can show you. This is an intermediate, bordering on advanced class. However, I'm going to go through each of these steps really slowly, step by step, make sure that I do it twice so we can get a chance to just ask questions, and anything that doesn't make sense, I can focus on that. And I wanted to say also that even though it's considered an intermediate or an advanced class, one of the things I like about this stitch is it's very forgiving in the way of tension. And I feel like it's easier to learn a step and memorize a step than to learn tension and teach tension, because that's one of those things with herringbone and some of those other type of netted stitches where that's almost as important as the stitch, which in and of itself is pretty easy. But this one, the tension is so forgiving. You put the stitches and you put the beads in the right place and they work. So that's why I decided this is a good jump into something a little more challenging. And on that note, I'm going to switch to my other camera so we can get a closer look at the project. All right, so here's the 3 samples that you'd have seen, when you registered and in the handout. So what's different about them? This one was made with size 8 seed beads and size 11s inside. This one was made of 8s, and some of these are 10s and some are 11s. I mixed it up because I was looking for those perfect colors. And what you can see here is that it doesn't really matter if you use a 10 or 11, the 8s. You can get away with either. This one is a 6 with size 8 seed beads as the smaller bead. The other thing that's different about them is this is a 5 column design. This is a 4 column design. The awesome thing about flat chenille stitch is you can use any amount of columns that you like. It could be 3 columns, 2 columns, 6 columns. I'm focusing on 4 and 5 just because I've got one odd and one even. The only real difference you'll see is that one will have a center point and one will have a point where you have to add something that's got some symmetry to it. Okay, and so I'm going to bring out thread, needles, and some beads. And so for color tonight, I was thinking going with maybe like a lavender. I have a few other samples that I'll pull out later that, we can change it up, but I felt like this would be easy to see with like an opaque black. So I'm getting that color now. And it's right in front of me. I sat it here and now it's moved. Let's see here. Wow. Find it. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna use this blue actually. So this is I was looking for black and I seem to have hidden it from myself. So I'm gonna use the deep sea. This is a mix, but it has a really gorgeous color in it. It's this iris blue. And I'm gonna have that be a dark color so you can see my size 8 seed beads. So I'll be selecting that one out. And these are my size 6 seed beads. This is the color purple. All right. So for a length of thread, any length of thread that's comfortable for you. I think in the handout we said, the usual 40 inches or so, but it's really any length that you're comfortable with because you're going to have to add thread no matter what. If you're doing a bracelet length, you'll definitely have to add thread. So I'm using the precision scissors to cut. And I want to show you guys a trick that Meredith Rudy at Bead Along, she uses chain nose pliers to flatten the end so that it'd be easier to thread in your needle. And so that's what I'm doing here. This is a size 10 hard beading needle. There we go. Just have to intend it to actually thread. There we go. All right. And so I'm folding over about 7 inches. And this is worked on a single strand. And so for the first demo, I'm going to do a 4-column design. And as I was saying earlier, the steps are the same. No matter which number of columns you decide to go with, the steps will work. And you'll start with 2 of your larger beads and then switch to one of the smaller ones. And I think I'm gonna actually use this cobalt color. So we have shiny versus not shiny, a little easier to see that way. Yeah, that looks good. Slide it down till you have a tail that's, you know, between 10 and 15 inches. We're going to use that to create the closures. So I want to have enough tail thread to do that. Pick up 2 more 6s, another 8, 2 more 6, another 8. Slide that down, and then 2 more 6s. Okay, so you should have what will be your 4 columns. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So the next thing you want to do is pick up 2 more size 6 seed beads. And then go through the 8, just the 8 that we added, the next one here. They should sit right on top of each other. And you want to pick up 2 more 6s. Go through the next 8. And don't worry if it's loose right now. That's no problem. So I'm going to show you guys how to tighten that in just a second. One way to tighten it, and you'll recognize this from the peyote techniques, is just pull apart the working and tail threads. So I'm going to fold those. There we go. So they'll sit just like that. And I pick 2 more 6s, go through that 8. There we go. And I'm going to do one more set of 2 6 seed beads, 2 size 6 seed beads. And what you see here is I've got these 2 on the end, but nowhere to go. So kind of like in an odd count stitch, in an odd count peyote stitch, it's very similar. I'm going to bring these down, these 2 beads down, set them on top, and I'm going to turn and go through these 2 beads. So those are the 2 6s we added first in the last step. And then just pull tight. Okay. And so now it should start to look, if it loosens up on you, pull the tail thread. Mine just loosened, so that's what I'm doing here. It should look like this. You should have these little squares of 6s, and you should be exiting from this size 6 seed bead. And so now we're going to just go straight up through this bead, which is the 6 right above it. So right there. And sometimes when I'm working, you'll see me press down with my finger. This is just to keep everything from wiggling. Those first 2 rows of every bead, you know, design that we do, you notice they wiggle for those first 2 rows. So that was why I did that. I'm just tightening it up. Okay. And then I'm going to pick up another size 8 bead. I'm going to go down through the next 6. And what we're doing here is we're building a place to put the next row. Okay. So there's the 8 I just added, and exiting from that 6. I pick up another 6. Oops. Okay. So the new 6 is on my needle. I'm going to go through the 8 that I just added. And so now what we need is we need more 8s in these places in between each of these other 6s. So I'm going to continue down through that size 6 seed bead. So I just went through that 8. I'm going to go down through this 6. When you get working fast, you would have done that as one step, through the 8 and the 6 at the same time. But I'm going to show, as I'm working today, I'm going to show you going through each bead, so we won't do shorthand for anything. Okay, so now I've gone through the 6. I'm going to go through the next 6. Pull tight. Okay, and here's my next size 8 bead. And go down through the next 6. And then come up through the next 6 in the row. Another 8. And I was going to show you guys it's totally okay to go through both of these beads at once if you'd like to. I'll go through them one at a time just so you can see really clearly which beads we're going through. So I went through this 6. And now I'm going through the next 6. And everything's starting to tighten up. That's one of the great things about flat chenille is the placement of these little beads with the big beads makes for a really good hold. It makes weaving in thread easier, and the shape is still flexible, but it it keeps its form. So I really like this stitch. I think it is definitely one of my favorites. And it's one that I get asked about a lot because it looks really cool when it's done. So what I've done now, I've just picked up another size 6 bead. I added that 8. I went through this 6, and I'm picking up another size 6. And I'm going to turn and go through that 8. And a trick here when you're working on it at home to keep it tight is this is the one that I exited with, the thread I exited with. I'm holding it while I pull the new thread through, just to kind of keep it in place for a minute. There we go. And so this is a step that I always call the goalposts, because you have these 2 6s on the edge, and all we need to do is fill in the center with our gaps here with 6s. So pick up 2 and go through the next 8. And see, they just snap right in place. Same thing there, 2 beads in between, and then 2 beads going into this 8. And there we go. All right, so now we need to turn and go the other direction. So to do that, I'm going to go down through this 6. So that's the one below my 8. And then turn and come through both of those size 60 beads on top. Get that thread out of the way so you can see. So I'm going through these 2 here. Okay, and now it's time to add more 8s. So I'm going to grab another 8. And kind of the same thing as we did before, we're going through the next 2 6s. And grab another 8. And go through 2 of the 6s. and one more 8 through the 6s, both of them here. In this next row, super easy, we're just going to put size 6 seed beads here, 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 and here by going through the 8s. And when you get to the end, you'll have to pick up 2 seed beads and go ahead and turn through both of these 2 6s. Those are the 2 below. You see I'm going through this one and that one. And there. And it'll sit side by side. So now we're getting back to the first repeat of where we were when we started. And so we're going to come up through. So keep in mind, we're going this direction. So we need to go and add an 8 so we can make a turn. So now I've just gone through the 6 that's above the one I was exiting. And click there. Picking up another size 8 bead. And now I'm going to go down through the next 6. All right, and so now I've got a place to put another 6 bead. See, I've got a bead to go through, and that was the whole goal of that turn there, was to create a way to add another 6 right there. See what we're doing? So I'm going to go through that size 8 seed bead, and I'm going to continue through the next 2 size 6s. And if you can do that in one swoop, great. If not, like I've done here, I'm just going through 1 6, and I'm going to come up and go through this one. All right. And you'll recognize this as our one side of our goal post. This is that step where we're building that. So now I'm picking up an 8, going through 2 size 6 beads, and pick up another 8, go through 2 size 6s, another 8, and go through the last 6. And then you'll need to pick up a new 6 and go through the 8. That's the 8 we just added. And this little trick here to pull on your tail and bring that working thread through. And there it goes. So there's the goalposts. And the rest of this is pretty intuitive. You're going to pick up 2 size 6 beads and go through the 8. And so it's those same steps repeated throughout the length of your bracelet. So you will just repeat those. In the handout, I believe there are steps 2 through 8. And when you get to the last 8 here, go ahead and go through that and lock those 2 in place. And then you'll just need to turn so you're headed this direction. So to do that, go down through the one that's below and then turn and come up. And so you can see we're going to add 8s here in between the gaps, and with every row the 6s are changing direction, so you're either going to be adding 4 8s or 3 8s. So from here I'm wondering, start the next one again. Hey.
Hey, it's Carmi from John Bead. Just before everyone obviously would love to see you do that again,
okay.
Setting it up. You're being requested. Is there any way you could use a really contrasting color, even if it's not really your design choice? Something
Oh
that would
yeah,
be, could you like do blue and red or something that is a lot easier for everyone to see?
yeah, definitely. I'm always struggling with colors. My light changes every class. These seem dramatically different to me in this light, but they're not really, huh?
No,
Um,
yeah.
let's go with uh, red. Red sounds great. I'm gonna grab a red. I have one right here. And would this blue be good, or do you guys want to see maybe like a turquoise? What do you think of these two together? Is that
That looks amazing.
awesome?
We
Okay,
should be able to see that.
great. Okay, let me just get these out of the way really quick, and then we'll start a new one using these beads. And I was thinking I'll do this one in 4-column. The steps are identical, but that way we get a chance to see a 4-column one. But there's really no difference. As I was saying at the beginning, you can build this stitch with as few or as many columns as you would like to have. So cut a working length of thread. Cut a length that's comfortable for you. It's your recollection scissors, and this is the Wildfire 0.06. And once you've cut your thread, there's a trick to making it easier to thread. So you just want to take some chain nose pliers and flatten the end of the thread. Yeah, okay. And this is a size 10 hard beading needle. All right, fold about 7 inches over. So I brought the needle down about 5 to 7 inches, whatever is comfortable for you, because we're going to move that as we work. And then this is worked on a single strand. Okay, so the first step is you're going to want to just set up your columns. So pick up 2 size 6 beads, or 8s if that's what you're using, 8s and 11s or 8s and 10s. I'm using 6s and 8s. So 2 size 6s and 8. 2 more size 6 beads and an 8, and then 2 more 6s. There's 3 columns, an 8, and here's my 4th column, 2 more 6s. Slide that down, leave about 10 to 15 inches of tail thread. I went too far. Here we go. Grab these really quick. All right. Did I get that right? Yeah. Okay. I cut my thread a little short here. Okay. So there's row 1. You want to pick up 2 more 6s. We're going to go through that 8. And we'll form a little square there. And then pick up 2 more 6s and go through the next 8. And if you want to tighten that, pulling the working and tail threads apart from each other like this will help to straighten that out. And we'll go through 2 more 6s, going through the 8. There you go. And now we're going to add, sorry, I flipped that. We need to add 2 more 6s, and there's nowhere to go, so we need to turn. So what I usually do, slide these down so they sit where I want them to, and then go through these 2 beads. So I'm going through the 2 6s at the bottom. And while I'm pulling this, I'm going to hold it with my fingers so that it stays nice and tight there. And so there it is, rows 1 and 2. Yeah, I'm going to use this color from now on for all the projects. This looks great. Thank you for that suggestion. Let's see, I'm going to go up through, I'm going up through the 6 that's above the one I'm exiting. So I just went through these in that direction. I'm going to come up through the 6 that's right above. And pull tight. And now pick up another 8 and come down through the next 6. And you'll see it kind of sit in between those two. And I'm going to pick up another 6 now and go through that size 8 seed bead. And so you see I've gone through the size 8, and where I want to be next is here. So I'm going to continue down through the 6 after I go through the 8, which I'm going to do those each one at a time so you can see real clear. There's going through the 8, locks in place. Now come down through the 6. And now turn and go through the next 6. Not turn, but kind of just, they tend to be heading, when I'm saying down, I mean like that, and then, but really you're just going through the next size 6 bead. And then, you know, not pulling too tight, but just enough to give it a good lock there. Pick up another 8 and go down through, or sorry, go through this 6 and through the next 6. And picking up another 8, doing that same thing again, going to the next 2 size 6 seed beads. There's that second one. One more size 8 and go through that last 6. And there it is. So now we're going to build the goal posts. So I need to pick up another size 6 bead and go through the 8. You see it's sitting here. And so we're going to fill in between these 8s. We're going to put 2 size 6 seed beads in between each of those spaces. So I just picked up 2 6s and I'm going to go through this 8. Here's 2 more 6s going through the next 8. And here's the last set. 2 more 6s going through the 8. Okay, so the goal now is to turn and be able to go in this direction. So to do that, I'm going to go down through this 6. That's the one below. And I'm going to turn and go through the top 2 here. All right, pick up another size 8, go through the next 2. Another size 8, go through the next 2. Here's another 8 and going through the last 2. And so there's another row. This next row is really easy. We just put 6s in between each of the 8s. So there's the first 2, the first set of size 6s through the 8. Here's another set through the 8. Another set. And now we're kind of back to what you guys will recognize from the beginning. We had 2 more 6s to add, but nowhere to go. So turning and going through the 2 6s that are below it in the other direction. So in this direction. And so now I'm going to come up through the size 6 seed bead that's above right here. So through that one. I'm picking up another 8. Go through the next 6. Now I'm going to pick up another 6 and go through that 8. And I'm going to continue through the next 2 size 6 seed beads. All right, another 8. And through the next 2 size 6 beads. And pick up another 8. And go through the next 2. One more 8, and go down through that last 6. Okay, and now I'm going to pick up another size 6 and go through the 8 I just added. And now I have those goalposts again. Pick up 2 more 6s, go through the 8s. And I'm going to grab a few more of these I ran out here. This is opaque red. It's really pretty. And 2 more through the last 8 here. And then we'll just need to make that turn. So going through this one, this is the next 6 that's below it. And then turning and coming through both of these size 6 beads. Oops. There we go. Okay. So the next step would be ones we've seen already, putting an 8 here, an 8, and an 8. That's pretty much the gist of it. So from here, we're doing great on time. I could repeat this one more time. Or what I could do is do another in this color with the 5 column. We could try a 3 column, you know, whatever seems interesting. Or I can start showing how to weave in thread when you run out. Got a sample to do that with too.
Danielle, I think you're getting wonderful comments about it because it's definitely a much harder stitch than you've taught. It would be really great today to make sure that we show them how you finish.
Yes, for sure. And I think that that is going to be something that I can do at least twice because I've got 2 samples ready to go that, you know, I've got this one. This is actually I've got 3 we could show. So I'm ready to go for that. I think we have time. Should I start over one more time or just move on to adding thread? Or I can finish a few more rows on this. I think I saw somebody ask for that.
Yes. I think they just like, I think you're showing how smooth each row becomes.
Okay.
Definitely add another 2 rows would be awesome.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. I'm gonna do that. So here I've picked up an 8. Going through the next 2 6s, an 8, go through the next 2 6s. And what you'll find as you start building this is you will memorize it. You know, you'll be referring to the pattern maybe the first couple times you make this, but you'll memorize it after that and then you won't have to look it up. So we added 8s in between each of those. Now I'm picking up 2 more size 6 beads. I'm going to go through that 8. 2 more. Through the 8. And now this is that step where you have these 2 you need to add, but there's nowhere to go. So you turn and go through those 2 6s below it. Sometimes the needle doesn't quite want to go through. There we go. So going through those 2. And when you pull, those beads will turn and sit right on top. And so to get an 8 where we need it so that we can add that first side of the goalpost, we're going to go through that 6 above, pick up a new 8, and come down to the next 6. All right, and then you need another 6, and go through the 8, go through the next 2 6s. Sometimes I can get that to work in one stitch, and sometimes I make that a 2-step process, but it worked for me that time. So I went through the 8, this 6, and that 6. It's just one way where once you get the hang of the stitch, you can make it really fast with those little shorthand tricks. Going through 2 6s. Here's the last 8, going through the last 6, picking up a new 6 and going through the 8. And so now we're just going to fill in each of those 8s with 2 size 6 beads. Going through that 8 there. And then making the turn. Coming up through these 2. And from there you just add more 8s, and we're back. We've done one complete iteration, I guess would be the best way to describe it, or one set of repeats maybe. And there we go, the last 8. And we're back where we started. So now we would add 6, 6, 6, and 6 there, and then turn and come up and add the next 8s. Yeah. And so if there's any questions on this before we move into adding thread? Looks good. Oh, I just saw something pop up about embellishing the edges. There's a really cool way to do that. It involves kind of brick stitching a picot on the side of the threads here, but something to think about. I might throw one of those, up on Instagram later to check out. Let's see here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add thread. It sounds like everyone pretty much got it there. So here's what I was working on, and I ran out of thread. And, I was thinking that looks very dark, much darker than I was expecting. I'm gonna add thread on this one. I hope that's a little bit better. I ran out of thread on this one too. This is a 5-column design with 6s and 8s. So this might be a better one to show it. I pulled the needle off of my working thread. This was my working thread that I had. I pulled the needle off of it, and I'm leaving it in place for now because it's marking where I am. Like a little placeholder there. And I'm getting new thread now. Doing the same trick for getting the needle to thread again. Where you get those pliers and flatten it. And so the really great thing about this stitch is just how tight it is and how each maneuver through will make your thread tighten up in a way that there's really no need to knot. So I want to be able to make at least one turn. In this stitch, you only need to make one. And since I'm headed in this direction with my working thread, I'm going to start weaving in my new thread going in the opposite direction so that I can turn and meet it. So I think, let's see, I'll choose a spot right here. And I'm randomly just choosing a place to jump in. I went through an 8 here. And now I'm just going to continue through, turn this way. I'm just going to continue stitching through this row as if it was, a new row that I'm adding, following that existing thread path that we've already created. So I've gone through 3 beads here. And my tail is still moving a lot. I always like to test it. But it is tightening up, and that's what we want. Continuing on, I'm going to go down. I'm catching the 8s when I weave in because that adds a little bit extra to tighten it up. Coming up through the next bead. I went through 2 here. Okay. And down through. All right, I'm exiting from, there's one more 8, and I'm exiting from this 6. Okay, so let's test it. It's still moving a little bit, not much. When I make this turn, it's going to be pretty solid. So I'm going to turn here. Oops. Okay. Going through the 8. Any chance I have to go through an 8, I choose to because it will make it a little tighter. I'm going to test to see if it's tight now. It's getting pretty good. It looks like that tail has stopped moving already. So my goal now is just to get over here so I can take the place of my old working thread. So all I'm going to do is just follow this path really quick through my row. I'm just going through all of the beads again, just like we did when we were adding this row. I'm going to test it one more time. And you'll notice this does not move anymore. This was the end of my new thread that I'm weaving in. So I'm going to go ahead and trim it and get it out of the way. To do that, I'm going to pull on the end and push down with the scissors. And it disappears into the work there. And go up through the next bead here. Trying to get through as many as I can. I went through the next 6, the next 8. There we go. So from here, you remember this turn that we did. You could do one of 2 things. You could just zip up this way. That's fine. And that's probably what I'm going to do here. Tightening that. Okay, so optionally, if you're worried about it at all, you could take these 2 threads right now and tie a knot. I never do. You don't really need to, but you could. One reason to do that perhaps is if you let this one get too short and you're not feeling like weaving it in would be strong enough, you could go ahead and tie a knot here if you wanted. But this is enough that I think I could weave it in. And to do that, what I would do is get another needle and thread it. This one is already flattened. And then just begin doing the same thing. Bring it down into the next bead and stitch it through. And it doesn't matter what beads you go through. You can go through any beads that you want. I'm just kind of randomly going through the next few here. And even though I'm not turning, I am kind of changing direction because you'll notice that because the beads are offset from each other, some are facing up and down. Each of these is a strength turn. More like a little curve, I guess. But anytime you make thread do that, thread like this that has, you know, some memory to it, it'll stay in place really nicely. I haven't had any of these come undone. Okay, I feel like that's good. That's pretty good there. I'm gonna trim. Okay, so pretending this one was a full length one and I was ready to add my clasp. What you would do is, this is step 8 in the handout where I've left off here. And normally our next step would be to pick up a size 6 seed bead and go through and start building the goalposts. but we're not going to do that in this step because we want to add a clasp. So I'm going to get these 8s out here. What I'm actually going to do with this thread is I'm going to pick up the thread bridge on the side. So one of the tricks when you're weaving in and you're trying to get your thread to change direction, a really cool trick is to weave from the side and use that thread bridge as a way to turn. So I'm going to try to show that as best I can here. I'm wishing I used different colors now. But I'm exiting from this 6. There's a 6 below it, and it has a thread bridge coming over it. I don't know if you guys can see that. I put that thread bridge there. It's actually better flat. I'm going to come up underneath it. See, through that thread bridge there. And pull tight. And now I'm in position to go back that direction, which is what I was hoping. Okay, so now we want to put some 8s in here, in between each of these spaces. So kind of like we did before. My thread keeps getting caught on something here. I'm going to shorten it really quick. There we go. Okay. Coming up through the next one. All right, I'm picking up an 8. Going down. Come up through the next 6. And picking up another 8. So basically this is just a, pick up an 8, go through 2 size 6 beads, adding another 8, going through the next 2. So that's what I'm doing here just to get those in place. I have one more 8 to add. All right. And so now I want to be going that direction again so I can make my loops. So I can put on jump rings and a clasp. The style I'm showing you right now is this one. So I'm showing you how to build that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the side again. Same thing we did before, going down between those 2 beads that are below it and using that thread bridge as a way to get my thread going in the opposite direction. So I've done that. I'm going through the 6 and the 8. And so now I'm right where we need to be. I want to show you guys some choices here. When I built this one, I used 8s and 6s, but then when I made my loops, I went ahead and used some 10s. This is all preference. You could do this with 8s, and I'm going to show you that that works. You would just change the count to 3. And go through. And there you go. That's a beautiful loop with 8s. In the handout, it shows going with 4 size 10 seed beads in between these 8s. I don't know if you can see that or not there. But there's 4 size 10s. And that's just preference. That's what you like. I can show you what that looks like too with this example. I just removed those 3. And now I'm grabbing some 10s. And I'm going to show you on this one and on the red one too. So get the idea of what the difference might look like. So there's 4 size 10s. Go through the next 8. You get another loop. So I'm going to finish it like that because that matches what we did in the handout and on the examples. But there's just so many opportunities to customize and really make this your own. That's one of the great things about this design in general. So I'm picking up 4 size 10s. I'm going through. And this would work with 11s too, in case anyone's wondering, why 10s? You can use 11s. They all work just as good. There, I've got 4 loops on there. I need to reinforce it 1 time. So to reinforce it, we're just going to make a turn, just like we did before. I come down here, go under my thread bridge, and then come back up. And I'm going through the 6, the 8, and I'm going to continue through all those beads again. As many as I can get through. And I'm going to go super fast. I just noticed that our time is gobbled up. See, I love this stitch. Time flew while I was doing it. Okay. My needle won't cooperate there. Go through. Okay, so I'm going to leave that thread in place so I get a chance to show you the next step. What you can use, and there's so many options. You can use, at this point, you could add jump rings in a bar, jump rings in a toggle. But one of the things that I liked that I saw at the store, I saw these. So these are the end bars that I used on the sample design. And then there's also the option of using these two. Those are really cute. Since I have these handy, I have one of these open actually. Go with those. Okay. And I don't need to use all of, this one has 5 holes on it. I'm only going to use 4 of them. You don't have to, you can use as many as you like, but I'm going to add a jump ring in 4 places. Actually, I think I want to use just a size down of jump ring. I'm getting jump rings out of a findings pack, but you can use any jump rings you like. What size is that? These look like they're 6mm. I think they're 6mm. All right. And so I like to use bent nose pliers. And there's a plier called, I think they're called flat nose. They look like this. I love them for jump rings. They're what I usually go to. We're gonna open. And I'm starting in the middle. The reason I'm doing that is just easier to get the outer jump ring on than the inner one if you've got the outer one on already. So I'm adding this one. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add the inner one. And since this has 5 circles on it, I only need to use the outer 2. I'm ignoring that center one. You could put a charm on that center one. That would be really cool. Let's see here. Opening jump rings, just laterally opening them like that. Going through that loop. One more to go. And that's it. So that's exactly how this one was done. And then after that, what I did is I added a charm on one end with some jump rings. On the other end, there's toggle. Oh, I'm sorry. No, there's a lobster claw, not a toggle. But you could put a toggle if you want to. Just anything you like. Sky's the limit. And so that's one way to end them. If it was a smaller design or one of these designs that has, I'm tight on time, but I was going to show you guys adding a center point. So you'd add one more row.
You can go a little bit over if you want to.
If everyone's okay with that, I might just really fast show the center point design. It only takes a second. I'm going to go lightning speed here. Oops. And so this is that step 8. We're getting in the handout to step 8. And you get to this spot here, same as we did before, where you'd be adding a new 6, but we're not going to do that. We're going to come underneath the thread bridge and then come back up. Oops. And you're going to go down through the 8 and the next 2 6s. Add another 8. Continue through there. We're at another 8. And there's that. And then turn through that thread bridge on the side. Coming up, exiting that 8. You see what I did there? And now I'm going to do the same thing. 4 size 10 seed beads, or 3/8 if you prefer 3/8, you can do that. And I do think 4 11s would also work. You could do 4 or 5 11s, whichever. Play with it and see which one you like, what your eye likes. And so there we go. So this one you can see has a center point, which is great to throw a toggle on. So you could grab, let's see, I have some toggles sitting in front of me. You could either jump ring in a lobster claw or jump ring and a toggle, and it would look a lot like, for example, this one. So same thing there. That's just, this is with 8s and 11s, and this is with 6s and 8s. And that's it. All right, so I'm gonna switch my camera so you can see everybody. Hi guys. Sorry about going a little over, but that was a big one. That was a class that I thought was just really worth doing because it's a technique that I think makes beautiful gifts. So I hope everyone enjoyed it. Next week, I'd love to see you guys for these. We're gonna do some beaded garlands. So this is knotting, wax linen knotting. So we won't, well, we will have to thread some needles, but it's not the same. It's the big eye needles, the flexible eye needles with wax linen cord. If you're at the shop next time, this is the cord, it looks like. Pick up any beads you like. I'm using size 6 beads on here. And some of the DMC embroidery thread is what I used for the tassels. And the whole parts list is online. So then of course the last class we have after that is the earrings. These are the owl beaded wreath earrings, which are really fun. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me, and I will look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thank you. Have a good night.